Hi, I'm Kevin McMahon. I'm the writer of the dialogue for Punchy the Musical. Amanda Noor, who was directing, um, was working on another project of mine, another piece that was going into the theatre, and I'd emailed her to ask her the progress that had been made with that, just as she'd finished the meeting with Jack Taroni. Asked me would I be interested in finding a bit more about an ongoing project that was a musical. I was, and so she put me in touch with Jack, and she sent on to me the work script that Jack had been working on with Richard Barrett, who's the author of the works on which the play is based. I then sent off for Richard's book, and was fascinated by it, fascinated by some of the concepts and how the two could be married together into the tracks that of Jack's that had also been sent along to me. So that's how we got started on it. Well, we started the work in August. I was in Ireland researching for a piece that I was in the middle of at the moment. So Jack was very patient. He didn't put any pressure on me to write it too quickly, but it did give me time to read the book and a couple of other works by Richard. And it also gave me a time to have a Skype call with Richard. So we had quite a long discussion about the book and about the concepts of ego and soul and the internal critic. The work script had the action set in the post-war years, the early 1950s, and that struck me as a really pertinent and appropriate time to set it with, because it was a time of massive social change. It was a generational change. With it being a musical, it was the time when the younger generation were starting to express themselves much more through music. So that tied really well, particularly with Punchy being a musician and Punchy finding his voice through his own music. James, George's father, has been away at war for 5 years. He's missed the formative years um, with George, and was a pretty ineffectual parent, even by his own admission before the war. It also allowed me to introduce a character like Manny, because Manny has been through an unthinkable situation, the loss of his sister in the camps, and has come to terms with that, not in terms of being able to subdue the grief, but as the realization that no matter what unspeakable things could be done to people, the actual energy of love that soul stands for can't just be annihilated. And so he's come to terms with that, and it kind of assuages his survivor guilt. I suppose he blames himself for a lot that's happened to his sister. It's excellent music for one part. It is a number of different roles. One, it amplifies um, the action. In some ways, it moves the action forward, as in when Punchy finds it very difficult to express his feelings for Edie to Olive, he does it in a way that he feels most comfortable, the voice that he feels most comfortable with, because he doesn't trust his own voice, but he can trust himself to music. I think it gives some relief from the action at some points as well. It's it intensifies the music. It gives a kind of emotional depth in certain places, because there are certain pieces that play after very powerful scenes where you've got some time to absorb those, and it's good music. It's just it increases the enjoyment of the whole experience. It's actually very easy to find the voice of ego. You can find it now through social media, through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. That's the nagging voice in the ear, and that's why it could potentially be transposed to 2021. Um, so that, I suppose, we always find the self-critic easier to write, because that's the voice we listen to an awful lot anyway in our own heads. But the relationship with soul And I think an awful lot of the essence of Saul's character comes directly from Richard's book. It might well be that our grieving for somebody who's passed away is at an ego level, but there is a realization in the play through those people who have experienced it, such as Manny, and the point made forcefully in Richard's book that the soul cannot be defeated because it is it's not an entity. It is a spirit. It's an energy rather than an entity. It could be quite tempting to write a very kind of floaty, ethereal character, but having the two together gave a bit of a kind of double act that you could work on. Partially Manny, because Manny was my own creation, if you like. We wanted. It's interesting because Jack, in an email to me, talked about wouldn't it be a good idea if George encountered a strong male role model, which he doesn't have. And he sent me the email the night I'd just finished writing the Manny scene. And that happened so many times through the writing of it, where I would send something off and Jack would say, "We've just had this conversation that we were looking for something like this." And then I would write a scene and then Jack would write to me to say, "I've been thinking, wouldn't this be handy?" It's always difficult, but it's in the nature of drama. You know, if you think about Macbeth, you've got in 5 acts, you've got to have that massive change take place there. So basically, it's just a matter of plotting the major points in the character's arc. And we do see him at that start. He's very much at and that's where the 7-stage structure from Richard is very helpful, because you can plot that almost as an equidistant stages on the arc of the character, almost kind of growth of a hero, to making the wrong choices to without knowing they're the wrong choices, to start to appreciate that self-knowledge that you know, before you can grow, you've got to know that the choices you've made are wrong ones, and then you can start to grow towards some kind of redemption. I think it's the importance of being receptive to the wider voice than just the narrow internal self-critic, that there are two sides to that character, or two sides to that individual, and one is the ego, but the other is that more outward looking, considerate entity that brings you into a closer communion with others, instead of that stuck inside the shell. And it's that removing that protective shell around yourself and being able to accept yourself for who you are, without being damning of yourself,